Okay, so you must have come across this employment bond issue at least once in your life if you are an employee. So basically, it says that you cannot leave this employment or with this company without serving this particular period. And if you at all plan to leave this, then you need to pay a certain amount to the company as a compensation. And if you just pay the amount, you can leave it, otherwise you can't. So this is we call as employment bond in the employment, and most companies uses it in India. So we can answer if this bond is really legal or not, and what can we do if you at all sign this particular bond with the company. Is there any option to get out of it? And yeah, so that's the main agenda for this video. So hi, I'm Akshay, I'm a lawyer. I have previously drafted employment contracts and employment bonds also for Indian startups. So we can answer this question in this video in short. So firstly, what exactly this employment bond? So it is basically an agreement that you will sign with the company that you cannot leave this company, let's just say maybe around 2 years or 3 years according to the bond. And if you at all wish to leave this company without serving this 3 years, then maybe you need to pay the compensation amount or damages to the company, and only after that you can leave this employment. Okay, so in order to be this bond legal and enforceable against you, then there are certain conditions this bond must follow, must complete. And if it don't like serve or complete these conditions prior, then these bonds are not legal and you can challenge them, of course, in the court of law. So what are those conditions? I'm gonna enlist in short. So firstly, the tenure, like that life, the time during this bond is valid. It shall be reasonable. It shall not be arbitrary. So basically, for example, if you're like signing this bond with any IT company, then that bond shall be around maybe 2 years or max to max 3 years. It shall not be like for 5 years or 10 years. That is not a reasonable period for a company to hold you in your employment. The second important criteria for this bond to be legal is the company must have spent some amount on you as a training cost, or the company has given you some kind of courses to enhance your skills in order to be fit for this job. So if it requires that kind of thing and the company has given you that kind of training or courses, then that is also a valid condition for this employment bond. Thirdly, the penalty amount the company that is like asking you to pay if you just leave this job. So this amount shall also be reasonable. It shall not be arbitrary, and the company cannot just directly ask you, maybe let's just say your salary is 30,000 and the company cannot ask you 5 lakh rupees to as damages against you just because you have signed this bond. So court also took into the consideration that the person has a salary of 30,000 and the company is asking the compensation or damages of 5 lakh rupees. That doesn't make any sense at all. So that also is an important condition, and if your employment bond is really not fulfilling this condition, then we can definitely challenge it in the court of law. Lastly, the bond that you have signed, you must have signed it voluntary. It's like you must know the conditions that you are accepting as an employment. And if you don't understand these conditions while signing this bond, then also you can challenge it, or most likely if there is a coercion part, like there is some kind of threat to you to sign this bond, then also we can challenge it in the court of law. But to be honest, if you are signing this bond, then it is automatically presumed that maybe, or like you must have read it. That's the thing with the legal documents, that if your signature is over there, then the court or the law assumes that you must have read it, otherwise you won't sign this kind of things. So that's also one of the valid point in the employment bond. Now when this bond is not legal or it is not enforceable against you, so there are few conditions, and if the bond satisfied these conditions, then that bond is illegal and we can definitely challenge it into the court of law. So firstly, if the bond amount is really exaggerate or it is really high, then court may also consider it as invalid because of such high penalty to the employee just because he didn't serve this period with the company. The second important thing is the company did not spend anything on you, or like they have not give you any specialized training or any specialized courses to enhance your skill. So in that case also the bond amount can be legal or can be illegal, and you can definitely challenge it in the court of law. And thirdly, also, like if the bond tenure or the timing of the bond is really long, then also the courts have held that these kind of bonds are invalid and maybe not enforceable against you. Lastly, if the bond is signed under the coercion, or if the bond is like signed under the pressure from the company, due to this you sign this particular bond, then also this bond is not legal, and the company cannot enforce it against you also. Okay, now understanding the legal scenario in this situation. So employment bonds comes under the Indian Contract Act, and the law clearly says that even if you have signed this particular bond, nothing or no agreement can stop the employee to pursue the employment with the another company. So basically, restrictions on trade or employment is not legal in India, and the bond can be held illegal if it doesn't fulfill those conditions that we cited previously. Now, to be honest, if you're saying the or like if you're seeing the section 27 of the Indian Contract Act, then it seems that the bonds are not legal or they are like against the law. But to be honest, it is not the entire story. And sometimes employer also or the company also need people to stay with them for at least some period, because they actually have invested some amount in you as a training cost, and now they also have the right to recover that cost from you. So they recover it by keeping you with them for at least 2 to 3 years according to their bond. And so if you don't serve this period, then company is also at loss, and the law is also there to facilitate or to increase the business. Therefore we need to protect employer also in some situations. That's why even if the bond is against the section 27 of the Indian Contract Act, it is legal in some sense, and it must have fulfilled all these conditions that we described earlier. Okay, now there is a recent judgment of the Supreme Court on this issue also. There is a Vijaya Bank versus Prashant, and in this 2025 judgment, the court has asked this employee to pay the rupees of 2 lakh rupees as a damages to the bank, just because this person did not serve the bond period exactly. So now some tips for the employee if you are at all signing this kind of bond with any of your new employer or the company. So you can definitely ask the company what actually they are spending on your training or skill enhancement, and if they are not, then bond is kind of a weak in situation. Secondly, do read the terms and condition of this bond. If you don't feel the period is reasonable, or if the period is really not reasonable, then you must not sign it, and you can just like stay away from these kind of things. Also, you can put everything in the document, and always keep your employment bond copy with you, also the offer letter that they have given you, and any training certificate that company has expressly given to you. Also, while leaving this company tomorrow, then you must serve the notice period of this company, and you must try to fulfill all these conditions of the bond, so that there will not be any damages to you or for your future employment. Lastly, even if the bond amount is high to you, or according to you it is really high for this employment, then you can definitely negotiate this kind of bond amount with your employer. Also, you can definitely take legal consultation if you are at all signing any new bond with the company. That is also like really helpful in this situation.